Oh my goodness. Seriously, I have to just do it. It's like I can tell myself I don't have to think about things that don't matter.
I was designed to do those things. How the hell does this guy know this about me?
It's impossible to not see.
When Dan read for my sister, she was like, he's psychic. She's like, how does he know that?
Yes.
She's like, it's human design, guys. Like, it's just a testimony of how legit it is.
Seriously, Danny was like FBI or CIA. He's like, how the hell does this guy know this about me?
Having my chart read, there were just thing after thing after thing that I was just like, wow, that's me.
This man is reading me and I've never met him before.
I was in the midst of one of the biggest emotional waves I've ever been in my life, and he saved my life.
It seems like everybody has the same reaction. It's that aha moment, and they want to find out more. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Human Design Advantage podcast. My name is Jen, and decoding the matrix for us is Danny Guru.
Jennifer, it's awesome to see you. I see we're on episode number 50. Is that right?
Episode number 50 for our Sunday shows. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, and we only started numbering them after we had already done a bunch, as I recall.
Pretty much. Yeah. I got off on the numbering. I was only numbering the Sunday shows and not the Wednesday shows. So,
right.
But yeah.
So this is awesome. It's a milestone. We're at over a year, and this is great. And today's subject is going to be really good. Everyone, make sure you like and subscribe, pass it on, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. In the description, there's a link to get your reading done, to get this analysis started, and I urge you to get that started. If you've been watching this, you know why. I don't really have to go into too much.
Right, and all the links are scrolling too, guys.
Right. Oh yeah, look at that. That, Jennifer, that's because you're so awesome and you're so much smarter than I am. Dang. So yeah, no slides for today, Jen. I was just gonna hop into this thing. Everyone's always seeing their profile lines, right? And everyone sees this profile. There's always two numbers to a profile, a 2-4, a 5-1, a 6-2, you name it. There's 12 of them.
I met a 2-5 the other day.
Really, that's a changing cross.
That, yes,
right
angle cross of laws, and I don't think we've ever come across a 2-5. As soon as I did, I was kind of stumped because I was like, "Oh, okay, this is new to me." Yeah,
are they a friend of yours at this point, or you're just right? So you'll notice this 2-5. They it's the profile that needs to call themselves into action. I mean, that and the 5-2 even more so. That they need to basically call themselves into action, out to universalize, and they're fickle. One side is like shy, never mind. I always look at it like a game of Marco Polo. Marco Polo, right? Always trying to find the person, but the person's always also trying to not get found. That's part of the game, right? So the second line is like, I don't know if I want to get found. And then the person's like, okay, I quit. I've said Marco and I couldn't find you. And then they go to leave. And then the fifth line jumps up and says, wait a minute, let's keep playing. and then as soon as they start playing, the second line gets shy again. They're like, well, Marco. It's sort of cute. You'll see some of that. But yeah, there's 6 lines to the hexagram. There's 6 lines of consciousness. These 6 ways, and every hexagram has their 6 lines, right? You could take any hexagram and just do a whole show on just that hexagram, how those 6 lines are affecting an incredible, impactful part of our life. And the person who carries that hexagram in their incarnation cross, I mean, as far in their sun earth, that line will then be part of their profile, part of who they are. And since
the points, guys, so you'll see a number and then a point, and then
the
points are the lines.
Yep, the point after the number of the hexagram, dot 1 through 6. So there's only 6 of them, and we've been talking about these over and over again. The first line is the investigator, right? And so today we're going to be talking about all the things that are wicked cool about these lines, the exaltations of what these things are. They're so exalted, and we get sometimes wrapped up in in like looking at all the aspects, and then it becomes a mental game, and then a lot of introspection goes in upon all of this. But if we just go ahead and detail what is so exalted about all these things, we start to see our unique human way. We did a show at one point, Jen, where I was talking about the purpose of the nine-centered being, this whole thing that we've become over the past 242 years now. And this nine-centered being is here to commune, right? And then when we put it all together, we're here to commune and demonstrate to ourselves that our love is moving in the right direction, and demonstrate to ourselves and others that our spirit feels full.
Mm-hmm.
That was none of these were the concern of the seven-centered beings. They had aspects of it, but that wasn't their concern. Their concern was just strategic cooperation and strategic only. So it was cold. Now that we've entered these nine centers, much warmer vehicles, much warmer way, none of us really want to do what the seven-centered past did, right? They killed everything. They only dominated, murdered it, you know what I mean? And any cooperation they had was strategically to gain some kind of strategic advantage over time.
Yes.
Our nine-centered existence, when we're not paying attention, I love this smile, Jen. What's lurking underneath that?
And Luna's is playing something behind me, so she keeps
Meowing or something. Right, gotcha. Hi, Luna. Luna's the shy cat over at Jennifer's house.
No, she hasn't been this morning. She's been kind of active and talkative. But I don't know. I think she's got to fly. I'm waiting to see if my curtain falls, guys. So
if it falls, it falls.
My green screen.
Yep.
I don't know if she's got to fly or whatever. She's chasing after something.
Well, we love you, Luna. So, oh, that's interesting. I just froze. So anyway, as we go through these 6 lines, these profile lines, we start to, see all the aspects of them. There's roles we play out from them. I'm just going to deal with the fact of how exalted they are, starting with line number 1. We're going through all 6 of them. So line 1 is the investigator. We've all seen this. Jennifer, you got a line 1 in your BodyGraph. That investigator is keynoted with introspection. It's looking inward. It's an introspective process. It's also keynoted with the chameleon, because, and you know this about yourself, Jen, there have been times where you'll just fade into the crowd until you've got an idea of what the heck's going on, right? And what is it? You're studying.
Yeah, I'm always investigating.
Right.
And the more, since it is on my unconscious side, the more, since my awakening, my whole internal world my whole world is internal. But I have noticed and observed through my investigation that I am always investigating.
No one gets out alive. Right.
No.
No one gets away from the investigator. The investigator is always investigating. And I'm not even going to really deal with whether it's on the unconscious or the conscious side so much. There are differences and so forth. But what's the exaltation of this? So first of all, it's a genetic need. It's a genetic proclivity we have. It's a genetic way. So part of our genetic way does all kinds of things, right? It makes us a guy or a girl. It makes us have, brown hair or black hair, right? So, so that's a way, guaranteed. Got black hair. Hey, that's how it works. The same here. It's just a guarantee. You can count on it. It's going to move you through your life. So what is so cool about this investigator? They're always building a foundation. If you look at the metaphor that's in the book, and where they do a house, they've used the 6 lines. They label them into a house. So the first line is literally the foundation, the very thing that's holding it up. If the foundation isn't any good, then the house will crumble. So first and foremost, the foundation. And so you guys are always building foundational knowledge. And so what's so cool about that? If there's no investigator, the rest of us are going to run around like, shooting from the hip. Second lines won't know what to be called into. Third lines will bump into stuff with no foundation. They won't know how much they'll tear it down with no plans on the other side. On and on. And so what else? What is so cool about being an investigator? You investigate the people that you might date. you investigate the place you're going to live. You certainly are investigating where is it that you're going to place your energy. And so if you have a first line in your profile, recognize and surrender to the investigator. The investigator tells you everything. It can't help it. The investigator is looking into the minutia. They're looking into the details. They're looking into what is going to make a good foundation. They're looking into the ways to make something really solid. And that's a self-absorbed introspective process. You're only sharing it as the investigation completes itself or is coming or along the way. And close friends, your closest friends, you'll share the beginning of your investigation with sometimes, maybe, and then, but the whole world, you'll share that's the whole thing. Once the investigators got their thing, they'll share that, empower that, they'll put that into the world somehow, way, shape, or form for everyone. So let's think of some investigations that have been so cool. Tesla investigated everything.
Did he have a one in his? Well, I know he had some ones in his profile.
I think he was a 5-1 profile.
Who else was a 5-1? Ra,
yeah. Oh my God. So Ra, the person the founder of the human design system, who received the knowledge and brought forward the revelation of it all. So his investigation, look what that turned out. This podcast, we would not have how cool it is without his incredible 24-year-long investigation, that he published his investigation and he universalized that. So think of all the cool things that you're going to bring into the world, and you don't need to know what they are. You just need to be yourself and follow your strategy and authority, which we give you when we read to you, when we read and do analysis of your BodyGraph. There's, in no uncertain terms, you walk away with a strategy and authority that interfaces you with your genetic way. So if you're a generator, you find yourself with all your energy responding, investigate that, please. If you're a projector and you recognize that this feels good to me, I think this is a system I want to master, start investigating it. All the types have their way with this. If you're a manifestor, right, and you feel this is an impact I want to make, I like this, and boom, and you suddenly find yourself moving there because you've initiated your own self into that movement. 1, 2, 3, go. Right? If you're a reflector, you're investigating all of the stuff that is around you and the world around you, and that investigation is going to turn out either the disappointment that what you're reflecting back, the world isn't doing so well and people better pay attention, or the surprise and the wonder of it all. So all first lines are involved with the wonder of what could be. Think about it. You're a kid and you're investigating your big toe. You know what I mean?
I investigated the cats.
Yes. How so?
So when I first got Aquarius, she was only 2 weeks old, and I only had dogs at the time. So raising her, she was bottle fed, and there's a difference between bottle fed cats and cats that are raised in a normal condition with their parents and other siblings. I didn't know she would have like cat-like qualities. Like, I was kind of wondering, because the dogs were raising her, and how would she be like a cat when she grew up? So I would watch. And when she started to go outside, she was doing cat-like things, but no one told her that she was a cat or this or that. She still has dog-like qualities. She'll run with the dogs against the fence if somebody comes up to the property and stuff like that. But she still acts like a cat. And so it was in that investigation that I realized that at the end of the day, even when it ties into human design, no one told her what she was. She knew, because that's how the energy was designed to express itself.
That one simple investigation now will mutate itself out into 100 different ways. You will impact 1 million people over time, with that knowledge. And that's one thing. And that's just one thing. And a countless number of people will be empowered by that investigation that you impact them with. And boy, will you feel good in each of those moments. And boom, our human currency is now working outside of the controls of the collective outside of anything. And so this is the beauty of the investigator. So don't go ahead.
I'd like to ask a question for anybody who does have ones in their profile. What I really enjoy investigating is just life and nature in itself. So, outside of the cat, I've watched caterpillars destroy a whole tomato plant one time. Like 45 minutes, I watched them eat that thing. But more nature, and when I investigate nature, then it helps me understand the whole cycle as a whole.
Right.
So I don't know if that's expressed through the line 1, but if anybody resonates with that, drop a comment down below.
Yeah, drop a comment below. So a couple of key things. Remember, we are a binary consciousness. We have these crystals of consciousness that are filtering the neutrino field that's always pouring through one at a time. So the sun gives us about 70% of the neutrino information that is going to pour through us and that we're going to be filtering. We have a binary consciousness where one side is supposed to just be the witness and live out what the body's consciousness helps navigate. And the body's consciousness does the navigating, and the personality's consciousness does the witnessing of that navigation. It's really simple. And so if you have a first line and you're investigating that, and once you see the simplicity of that, boy, are you going to empower a lot of people. And so that's why these sun earths are so important that make up the profile, because they become, in a sense, 70% of the being. It doesn't matter what percentage of the being they are. They're not the holistic being, but they are an incredible database of just 2 lines that gives us so much information about that person. So anybody investigating what you just said, I can see you witnessing that and literally watching it the whole time, investigating the nature, the tempo, the speed, how they did it, how they worked together, the whole thing, how amazingly good they were at it, and so that's and wonder. You were watching it with a certain amount of awe and wonder. Yeah. So if you're an investigator, if wonder and awe do not enter your being, your body, your way in the moment, that investigation may not be the right investigation for you, or maybe it's there to just be a temporary minor investigation and the bigger ones are going to come. Don't worry about any melancholy you have over that, or anything that your mind can tell you about, oh, I better do this, I better do that. No, stick with exactly where that investigation points your eyeballs and your attention, and you're in what you're hearing and touching and sensing, smelling, hearing, tasting, all of it. If you feel like investigating something in that moment, doesn't matter what type you are. 1, 2, 3, go. Don't even wait. Just start going at it, and you'll start to see how exalted these investigations really are. They inform you of everything. And the thing is, you're very self-inter-reflected at that time when you're doing that. This is lower trigram, so it's not really transpersonal. It's not ready to run out into the world to do anything, but its investigation becomes foundations for the whole world. So witness that and learn what else is so exalted about investigations? It's about this chameleon that will sort of blend in, waiting for the moment that feels like the wonder and the awe of what is it they're actually investigating. Even reading a book is an investigation, for God's sakes. And so, you can go ahead and fill in the rest of the blanks for your own self. I'm an investigator. I have a first line. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Obviously, it's me, so how can you, who were made perfect, there's no mistakes. I've never met a baby that wasn't perfect. So if you were perfect, then you have to assume that you are. Investigate that for a moment, and you'll feel really good about that. And follow these investigations. They really inform who you are. And now you can start to feel really good about that. It's a very exalted place to be. We need that. They become, in a way, a teacher. So next line, second line. Anything else you want to say about the first line?
No.
So second line, if you have a second line in your profile, doesn't matter what side it's on. I'm dealing mainly with the personality, but regardless, It's part of a binary consciousness. And that second line is keynoted with the natural, the hermit, the person who, they're also introspective in a way because they're carrying on the foundation. They're basically broadcasting the foundation that the first lines make. They're keynoted with projection. They project out like a radio. They don't know who's going to pick up that signal. They don't even know people are picking. The radio station doesn't know people are picking it up. It knows it's sending it out. And how do they know?
You're just broadcasting. You don't know.
You don't know who's
tuning
picking it
in
up.
and who's not.
It's a great analogy because the radio station starts broadcasting, and the only way they can really tell their success is the amount of advertisers and people that want to, pay them to come on board and keep their lights on.
You know what movie came to mind when you said that? Pump Up the Volume.
I remember this phrase. What is that? Sounds like a song. It sounds like a Kiss song.
I think Pump Up the Volume. It was 1990 film with Christian Slater. And it was about a kid who moved to, I can't remember, some community. His father moved him there too. And he didn't like it. And he was the shy kid in school. But he went home and started speaking on the radio. And all these teenagers were like, yeah, I love what he had to say. And did a bunch of controversies, but he never knew who was listening in because he was just broadcasting the message out there.
Perfect second line activity. And so when did he find out? When finally people at the school started saying, hey.
Well, he came across very anarchist, and kids were starting to write stuff in the school, and then the teachers were like, who are they listening to? And it ended.
But he had to find out. He didn't know.
Yeah, he had to find out.
Suddenly he realized, oh my God, people are looking at me. That's a second line. If you're a second line, surrender to that. You don't know. You're broadcasting. You're just a little natural. You're a hermit in your little hermit cave. You run away half the time and go to be alone. You successfully sidestep other people's requirements of you. You have a little shell around you that's guaranteed to fend off much of the influence of the other so that you can remain little pure and pristine radio station that's just broadcasting out. So listen, there's 1/3 of humanity has every line in it. Meaning because there's a line on each side, a 1-3, a 2-4, a 5-1, whatever these profiles are, 1/3 of humanity will have a second line. 1/3 of humanity has a first line. That's a lot of people. That guarantees we're always mixing it up. Guarantees it. 1/3. I mean, that's big news. That's 2 billion people, 2.5 billion people per. Yeah, that's actually about the right number. 2.5 billion people per line have it either consciously or unconsciously. So there's a lot of people that fit this description, right? They don't know. Surrender to the fact that you've got a little shell around you. You don't know. You're a little natural. You're waiting to be called. So what's so cool about this call that second lines receive? What is so exalted about this call? They receive a call and suddenly they can recognize right away. It doesn't matter what type you are. You got the energy for this thing. And if you're not called, you don't really have the energy for the thing. You have anywhere from 20% of the needed energy, anywhere from 0 to maybe 75% of the needed energy. But when you're called, you got 110. I realize I'm using numbers that don't make sense because there's only 100, but you see what I'm saying?
You've got the energy, and you're aware that you have the energy.
Right. And suddenly you're out receiving that call and acting upon it because you are called. Think of what an amazing mystical force this calling is. The investigator investigates, and so your calling environment, has had 2.5 billion people investigating your whole life, putting that out onto the planet. There's no shortage of foundations for you to just skip across the top of and recognize that a foundation somewhere is going to call the crap out of you. It's going to call you into something. And you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm a natural at this. I'm a little natural. Oh my God, I'm good at this. And you only discover that by receiving the call. And so what's so exalted about that? I mean, I find the exaltation of the second line is that once this being, if they allow themselves to wait in their perfectness and suddenly they receive that call for something they read, saw, someone told them, something they bumped into, you name it. Once they receive that call, suddenly they're unstoppable. You can't stop someone who's called. I mean, look at the jihadists that will, look at the kamikazes that would like, nope, I'm driving my plane into your ship. These people are called, I mean, how do you stop that? You have to shoot it down. So in order to stop a calling of someone who's a second line, who's been called into this amazing mission that they feel called into, you wouldn't want to stop it. It's just too pristine. It's such a gorgeous place to be. So the exaltation and the beauty of it is, as soon as you see it, you'll notice, because your energy is no longer at half mass. It's no longer, at 20% or even 70%. It's at 100 and 110. You're all in. It's a thing. Run with it. And don't concern yourself that, it's going to come to a conclusion at some point. It might start to wane because it's making room for the next call. Don't concern yourself with the fact that, hey, sometimes I stay in more than I even go out because I'm a little bit of a hermit. You're still lower trigram, so you're still in a inter-reflective process. You're always looking out in the world some way because you have another profile line, but that calling is really for you. So let it feel exalted. Let it feel like God gave it to you. I mean, you can't scientifically go in to that person's genome and tell me why is it they've just been called. No, this is where you need a little bit of faith, a little bit of spirituality. Some religion may help, and just say, and take your pick. Just some belief, like in AA, there's a belief that there's something greater than yourself and it's your genome working in this incredible symphony together that you couldn't possibly explain, that bubbles up to the surface to let you feel called into the thing. So if you're dating someone and they get sick of what you feel called into, you're not dating the right person. Or you need to educate them and give them a shot and to just, hey, this is sort of how I am. You need to love me this way, because I'll turn around and love you back the way you need to be loved. I'll look at your BodyGraph. I'll see what are these things that are needed. I will make room for that. And now two beings it's a very exalted thing when two beings come together, recognizing just their personality profile lines. Dude, a whole dating course could be done on just the personality profile lines and just, hey, hip yourself onto this and look up their design. And it doesn't even show the parts of their design. It just flashes a number, right? A person's name. You wouldn't even need a BodyGraph, just a number. They're a 2, they're a 1, they're a 3, and then you're a this. And then suddenly you could have so much knowledge of what is driving that person. So it's a mystical thing to be called. You can't notate that. No one can write a textbook beforehand as to why that calling is going to work out exactly one certain way. You have to experience it. You have to live it out. You have to let it come through and then run with it. By the way, anyone who's called, it doesn't matter your type. Everyone always wants to be a manifestor, Jen. Everyone thinks they want to go do and manifest and impact, and they don't realize how lonely it can be being a manifestor. It's like, what do I do next? It's up to me. You know what I mean, right? So
yes.
So in recognizing that, if you have a second line in your BodyGraph anywhere, when that call comes out, everyone's a manifestor when they're called. Suddenly that's what the beauty of the manifestor way is. It shows us that way is there. It's in us. It's in humanity. It's in the world. So when your investigation has struck you with wonder and awe and you've seen the thing, you're a manifestor suddenly, investigating and fleshing that out, and sooner or later sharing that out into the world and empowering and supporting everyone. You're feeling called into the thing. In that calling, you don't need to know what it's going to be. The calling takes you there. Genetically, your body is intelligent. It has given you this chemistry. You feel, I use the word feel, it's a chemistry. You feel called. Suddenly, that's a thing. Allow it. You can't know what it is for sure, but your mind's going to start to have all these beautiful, fun things with it. I mean, when I first learned human design, my mind was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to fix it all. It was like obnoxious is what it was. But what to do? I'm not changing any of that. I'm glad I didn't, I couldn't change my nature. And there were times when I felt like an idiot and stupid, but it didn't change my nature. I kept being called, and I'm still called to this day, Jen. We've seen this take shape. And we've seen it be a little bit obnoxious from time to time. If you're a second line, sometimes you're a little bit annoying or obnoxious, a little bit here and there. Whoever you're with better love you that way. And now you've got something concrete to make decisions upon. I mean, concrete, it's not you, it's them, you know, and they're not bad. It's just not you. That's, you know, you're not, there's nothing wrong with you. You felt called. So I say that's an incredibly exalted place. And it's a beautiful place to allow it. By the way, if you fight it, you'll know. When you fight it and fight the investigation and fight the call, you're not happy. And all your energy is at half mass and working at half speed, half throttle. Your foot's not even barely moving the gas pedal. All brakes, no good. So moving to the third line. Anything you want to say about the second line before I move on?
No, I was just going to say, I was just on the energy. That's exactly what I'm noticing through my experiment is that it's when I have the energy and when I don't have the energy really is not there to provide whatever it is, and recognize that, because that is your body telling you that you don't have energy for that.
This isn't your thing. This isn't your thing.
Not your thing.
Right. So unless
that needs to be normalized.
It needs to be normalized so that you can start to, how many times do we let the world rob our energy? A lot.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly it. The more that I'm recognizing it, because the more I honor my design, which is I'm a manifestor. I'm deprogramming myself from being a manifesting generator, or a generator, just, you know, because that's the world we live in. I've been recognizing my energy, what energy I have to put into something, and when I don't, and when it's not there, it's really not there.
Really not there.
And that's a hard thing for anybody to really, on an individual basis, acknowledge and recognize and honor, because we're taught that when I don't have energy, sometimes I don't do anything. It can be viewed as lazy. It's not lazy. It's just honoring what you have.
It's just honoring right, exactly. It's not lazy. And so think about what you just said. So again, that one simple fact, hey, if my energy's low, maybe this isn't right for me. If you can really start to internalize that and let that become part of your strategy of witnessing that, so you can start to recognize that's actually a thing. It's my body's awareness, it's consciousness telling me how I should navigate. Now you can start to just not do the things that don't have your full energy behind it. And so there are things in life we just have to do. We got no energy for it. Darn, I'm stuck doing this thing. I gotta do the stupid thing. Now you can boil down all the normal things you would have done that sapped you of your vitality and save it for just the stupid things that stupid 7-centered conditioning world stupid makes us have to do, you know, and get it done, get it out of the way and go back to your thing. So we can totally mitigate 80% of the stuff we don't feel like doing, where before we tortured ourselves over the stuff we didn't feel like doing. You're investigating, investigate. If you feel called, run, Forrest, run. You know, third line. And Forrest applies to all the lines. You know, investigate Forrest. You know, I use Forrest a lot because he portrayed an innocence. The character that was Forrest Gump was a lovely character. I don't know if you agree with that, Jen. I do. The character, not the character. Yeah. I'm making that distinction so we don't have to. You know, and so the character called Forrest Gump, they animated this wonderful character in that human, right? He had all these qualities everyone wants to have right across the board, and everyone exalts. So the third line, let's move on to that. This martyr, that martyr term is really an old-fashioned term. It's going to go away. They are the trial and errorist. It's just that other people martyr them because they bump into things. They're mutative. They're keynoted with sustainment. So you knock them down, they get back up. You knock them down, they keep getting back up. They keep sustaining at the thing that they do. And the more people call them out as, oh, you're about to make a mistake, because they are genetically designed to try and error, and ultimately find out what doesn't work. By the time a third line has gone through that process with each thing. Even as a child, they find the stuff that doesn't work, and boy, do they become wise, and they become adaptive and mutative, and they are the most mutative line of the 6 lines. They mutate everything because they're constantly bumping into the next thing, stirring the pot someplace else. Stir the pot someplace else. Some people call that an anarchist. And that's one of the keynotes of the 3rd line, the anarchist, and even the pessimist, because they seem to bump into so many things that they can get a little pessimistic about that. Well, if you have a little pessimism because you got a third of the planet will have a 3rd line in its profile, so a third of the planet is subject to forms of pessimism. As soon as you start to realize, hey, that's just a chemistry, I feel a little bit pessimistic, but that's because it's telling me this may not be the place for my energy. That's all. And so when that anarchist starts to come out of that 3rd line, you recognize that the people that are around you, that enjoy that part of you, that appreciate that part of you, those are the right people. And when suddenly, don't forget that every line builds into the one above it. Right up through the line 6 in a way. So there's been an investigation, something's been called into it, and now I'm in motion, bumping into it, trial and error, try this, try that, let's mix some of this. I found the perfect way to make an omelet. That's what the 3rd line does. They give us the perfect omelet. Okay. And the investigator may give us the perfect omelet. The person who got called may suddenly be called, and they naturally put the right ingredients together. And then the 3rd line took all that stuff and it's like bumped into all of it. I don't care what that investigator said. I don't care what that guy who got called said. I'm trying this. I'm trying this. I'm trying this. 5 of them really were no good. The 6th one, really good. That's what we're putting on the menu. Okay. They all were good omelets. That's the 3rd line's process for coming up with a good omelet. Okay. They all belong on a menu. However you got there, just realize this is your way. And so when people call and say, hey, you're not going to make that same mistake again, are you? Or this, you've made that mistake before, or they just get a little bit pessimistic on you. They start to treat you a little bit martyristically, like, oh, you're going to just nail yourself to the same cross again. Anyone who comes out with it, they're not for you. It doesn't mean they're bad. And it doesn't mean you don't have to see them. You work with them. They might be your parents or whatever. You love them. They just start to navigate away so you can get the real exaltation of what this 3rd line is. You guys are the makers. You guys make the things, period. You finally put it all together. Those big long instruction manuals that come with so many things, and you have to unfold it, and it's in 10 languages, and you got to go line by line and make sure you put the thing together correctly, right? The darn thing.
IKEA instructions.
Right. So an investigator loves, and they're like that word for word for word. The caller is like, can I just see how this thing gets put together? Shoot, I got to go to the directions. Okay. Or unless they feel called into the directions, and then boom, you can't take them away from the directions. They sleep with them at night. You know what I mean? That's a way. And then the 3rd line is like, you know what? I'm going to try it this way. The instructions say to do it this way, but that doesn't necessarily make sense. And then they might go back to the instructions and do what the instructions said, or they might find a better way. If you're a 3rd line, you find a better way over and over again. Accept that. Keep accepting you find out what doesn't work. That you've got this amazing sustainment that's part of your way. You keep sustaining at it, and you don't have to feel pessimistic. Oh my God, I'm going to have to sustain another day at this thing. Just recognize, again, back to the energy. If your energy doesn't feel right, then you're sustaining at the thing that isn't quite for you. And when we read for you and do this analysis, you'll have such a specific way to access through strategy and authority these genetic constructs that are working away in you, that you can't stop them. Just like you can't stop yourself from having brown or black hair. You can't stop. I mean, you can dye it, but that's not true. You all the things that your genome does that you can't stop it from growing your fingernail after you clipped it, right? It's going to grow again.
It will grow back.
It'll grow. You can't stop that. And you can't stop this. That 3rd line will try this and try that. And guess what? If it doesn't work, they're the ones that help to referee the foundation in the first place. So that 1-3 profile, for instance, that's really the foundational profile. They're investigating, making foundations, looking at it, and then later finding the foundation was no good or part of it was no good, and they tear it down. The anarchist is there to stand by their values. That's it. Just because I stand alone does not mean I don't stand by my own convictions and my own values. That's a third line motto. And if it means sometimes you have to stand alone, so be it. And what does that third line do? They give the example of that to the rest of us. And we all do that by nature. How many of us that come to our way and we realize, no, I will not compromise in this way. How many soldiers out in the world, this is not constitutional. I must stand against this, because they can't break with their own values, their own morals, their own sense of right and wrong. If you're a third line, you've bumped into what's wrong enough times. You've developed a sense of what is right. And you're here to sustain at that and try this and try that. You're incredibly creative. It's like you're a kitchen. You're a kitchen that can put anything together. You're constantly manufacturing various ways to do things, and you're finding out what doesn't work. And without you guys, we wouldn't have anything that works. How many cell phones before we got the one that worked? How many cars? How many everything? How many ways to just describe something before we came across the best way to describe it or a great way to describe it? Those are all our third lines that work in our body graph. Wherever you have third lines in your body graph, even if they're not in your profile, they're doing that for you. Let them do it. And like Jennifer said, measure the energy. If your energy really isn't there for it, start to recognize this ain't for you. This is not the thing that necessarily you want to be doing. And so unless the world is forcing you to do it for some reason, I got to register my stupid car or else I'm going to get a ticket, whatever. Go do the thing. And then the rest of the time, honor this energy in you that when it is low and you're not called and you're not investigating and you're not trying, then don't do it. Do something else. So think of how exalted this second line is, this third line, everyone should surround themselves with a couple of third line friends because they will help determine the things that aren't working and they help you naturally bump into the next thing. They've got a trajectory that guarantees they keep bumping into new and mutative changing things. Again, if they are the kitchen, the third line is the kitchen. If they are the kitchen, then that's where all the food's made. That's what sustains us. And it's in the keynote, sustainment. So third lines are incredibly exalted with their ability to sustain. What lights you up? What do you sustain at? Go do that. Keep being that. And witness the people that resist you. Start to navigate away, and you'll witness it leaves room for other people to navigate themselves into you. And that's just how life works. It keeps working that way. It's both a mystical process because we recognize fate and the forces that will put us together, right? But it's also a mechanical process. You can physically sit there with your notebook and be like, I'm going to see, does this really happen? If you journal for a month dutifully, right? And you really journal your whole day long, you will find, oh my God, I did bump into this. I was pulled into this. These are mechanics. Oh my God, I like it. And you will see that your genome is physically energizing your body through the mechanisms that move it through the life. And it is pushing you into this. Allow that. There's nothing wrong with you. You are not the mistake maker. You're the learner. And the degree to which your parents or anyone said, did you make a mistake? That's the degree to which you're conditioned towards pessimism. And to the degree to which the people around you say, hey, what did you learn? Not what mistake did you make, but hey, what did you learn? That's the degree to which the pessimism starts to fade and the optimism comes in and starts to realize, oh my God, I like this. This is okay. So any questions on the third line, Jen?
No.
The third line is the one line you and I have no harmony to.
Oh, okay.
2 and 4 don't harmonize with that third line in any way. So they don't harmonize with the 6, but we harmonize with the other 4 lines. Your 1 doesn't harmonize with it either, nor your 5. So moving on to the 4th line. Now we're moving into the upper trigram. This is where it gets transpersonal. So 4th lines are highly exalted because they're friendly. Exalt your friendliness. That friendliness allows plenty of room for all kinds of things to come in, all kinds of extremes to take place, all kinds of ways that you'll give an inch in order to gain 2 or 3 inches down the road. And that giving of an inch is not you giving up at all. Fourth lines are keynoted with friendliness. They sometimes like give in. The word is application, but they just give in. They're keynoted with with externalizing. They're here to externalize what's the scoop. That means they're talkers. The fourth line is the marketer. They are the network marketer. They're the multi-level network marketer. And you know what they're doing? They're taking.
I have friends that are fourth lines, and they are the ones that are the talkers. And
yes,
they talk to anybody, and they can have a conversation with anybody. And they are networking and promoting.
They're the networkers. They're the ones. They are the market. They develop the marketing material on this planet. So 1/3 of the planet has a fourth line. It's not that they are the only ones with a gee whiz idea on how to market something. But once that marketing is established, whether it's an investigator, a trial and errorist, or someone who got it in a calling, was just naturally called into it, or was broadcasting it and didn't know, doesn't matter how it got there, the fourth line takes all that stuff and creates a new foundation, the foundation for the upper trigram. And they just start talking. I want to talk. Let's get this stuff out. Let's put it out there. And that is the very definition of marketing. You can market to the masses. However, the marketing that really takes hold is when those masses one by one get into their network and say, dude, look what I just got. That's when that network is like, I got to buy that too. So, you can market to the masses, which fifth lines will do, but fourth lines get it into the local network. So you're wicked exalted this way. Just realize you're friendly. Realize that in relationships, you need to feel like they're their confidant or not. So if you don't feel confident around somebody, they're not for you. Again, they're not bad. They didn't do anything wrong. And it doesn't mean you won't acquaint with them, and there'll be an acquaintance and a friend and somebody. You're friendly. So you don't really know how to kick people to the curb. Don't kick people. Some people will come up. This is a common thing. I have a fourth line, and some of my third line friends are sometimes you just got to kick it to the curb, Dan. That's right for them. Okay. That's not right for me. I don't, my Rolodex will never leave my database. I never drop a name from my database ever. Even if I don't like them, I still hang on to the name because I just don't know. Now, if you're a fourth line in your profile, you've got that going on in your life. Allow it. Don't look at it like a weakness. Don't look at it like, oh, I just gave in and let them walk all over me and do whatever. That's not it. You're an exalted, friendly networker that literally brings opportunities to everyone. It's keynoted with externalizing, and it's keynoted with the opportunist. So if you're a fourth line, you're the opportunist. You're constantly seeking in a 9-centered way that will drive communion and love in a direction and fill the spirit of the people you're networking with. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to find the opportunities to make that happen as yourself. How cool is that?
Yeah.
So I know a lot of fourth line people that think they feel like they're a pest. Oh my God, I don't know. I get stuck on this thing. I'm so fixed in this nature. Fixedness is a way of the fourth line. No, you're not. I mean, you are, but it just means the people around you aren't necessarily the right people for you. It's very exalted. When you feel like externalizing, that's your energy. As it's coming out, that's right for you. And all you have to do is watch out for the right timing. If the other isn't receiving, you can stop now. How simple is that? How simple is that to just recognize I'm a fourth line, I externalize, I love to be optimistic, I love to network with people, I'm super friendly, I help people network with each other, I get all this goodness from my network, even if it's small, it's always growing, and I'm always seeing a person as the next opportunity to network and befriend, and then ultimately become influential with all of that. Fourth lines are the great influencers in their network, and then those networks build out into the world. So again, that's why they're the marketers. So you take the third line, the trial and error, and you take the fixedness of that fourth line, and you get that second binary, the 3 and the 4, and you transition from the lower trigram to the upper trigram, and you've got this incredible mutative changing ground, energetic movement that's always churning stuff up. And what needs to be marketed, what is being marketed. I mean, so the third and the fourth lines are creating it, selling it, creating it, selling it, creating it, selling it. And what we're trying to sell is we would like to lift your spirit and empower you to feel good and have your love move in the right direction while you do the same for us. That has nothing to do with money, conquering, the old seven-centered, strategic, advantage-oriented way. Nothing whatever to do with it. So, anything you want to say about the fourth line?
No, I think from what I've recognized, you saying that they were the networkers and stuff like that, I can witness that expression.
Yeah, absolutely. We have friends that are fourth line personalities.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always doing that, and they're so happy when they can pump out a post. Hey, dude, and they tag everyone. Dude, check this out. Did you know? Blah blah blah. They're excited.
Yeah.
Yes. So we need that. So if 2.5 billion people are doing that, do you think that might be marketing the thing across the world pretty well? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're designed to be influential over time. Live that out. Allow it. You can't allow it if your mind is making your decisions. You can't allow it if you don't know your design and you haven't been read. Shall I say it only gets more difficult. So allow this. It's where your energy really starts to come out. Fifth line is just exalted across the board. I mean, except for the fifth line being. The fifth line being sometimes doesn't feel exalted at all because it's keynoted with the heretic, right? The externalizer. So that fifth line being is just they don't need their network to externalize to. In a magic moment, they can be so consequential they can externalize to the entire world. We see it all the time in our fifth lines. Ra Uruhu was a fifth line, and he managed to put this information out into the world almost single-handedly to start with. There's a big crowd around him by the end. I'm part of that crowd. But they become these almost like prophets in a way. They become the people that are so consequential. They're keynoted with universalizing. They take these messages that were networked by the fourth line, and suddenly they start to universalize it across all the barriers that could be out there. And people project upon them that they will be the general. They'll be the one that does the cool thing. And that can make them feel a little bit paranoid. Right? Over time, they can get a little bit like, what does this person want from me? So,
yes. Now that I recognize what's happening, and the more that I learn about the five, sometimes even investigating the projections that I am receiving, not many people really know, like what I am externalizing.
If you're a fifth line, get used to the fact that most of your acquaintances don't know who you are. They don't know you. They know their projection upon you.
I spent 5 years in a relationship towards the end of it to realize that the person didn't really know me.
Nope. They just didn't know you. And because they're so... Were you speaking, Jen? Because your mic went off.
Yeah, I'm got a delay.
Oh, okay. So a lot, if you notice the people that don't know you and you recognize they don't really know me, don't think them as bad. They're not bad. You have a profile line that genetically pumps out the requirement to be projected upon, because you carry with you the potential of the hopes and dreams of everybody. It doesn't mean you're supposed to live that out. It just means you help empower that in the world. 1/3 of the planet will have a fifth line in their profile. 1/3 of the planet is designed to truly empower what is the beauty of communion and love that moves in the right direction, that fills the spirit of the self and the spirit of humanity itself. We're looking to fill our cup and feel full as our love moves in the right direction, as we commune with the other. And the fifth line exalts that like there's no tomorrow. So what can you do if you're a fifth line profile? Realize that moments of paranoia come in. What do they want? What am I getting into?
I am laughing because yes. Probably the most common reaction of a fifth line, especially if they are stepping into a coaching role or anything like that, is the messages. When we get the messages, is the first thought in my mind is, what do you want?
Right.
No offense for anybody watching this, guys,
No,
but it is the first reaction, and it is something that I am recognizing. And even though my strategy as a manifester is to inform, I feel like if you do have, the fifth line in your profile, it is important that you do inform and learn how to communicate effectively, which we are all learning how to do. But that projection field I have investigated can be so strong that even when you are informing or saying things, that some people can't hear you through the projection field.
That's right. That's
so
right. They can't quite hear. So that paranoia, now that's not a mental construct, that paranoia. It's just a word, by the way. We can pick a lot of words. Caution, that they're wary.
It would fall along like now that I'm trying to think of the energy, like what first comes up.
The body
my first question is what is it that they want?
Right. That's a hit to your body's chemistry. And then your mind goes to work witnessing that, formulating the question, coming up with the words you'll use, and being. Mind is here to be our outer authority. That's our witness passenger consciousness being programmed by the neutrino feed that's constantly pouring through. And the body's consciousness is our primary consciousness that navigates and informs the decisions we'll make. So the body took the hit. The mind put together, what do they want? And that's great. So your awareness, you're witnessing, what do they want? And that's a perfect thing for you. You don't have to live that out in this paranoid way. Some fifth lines will get so paranoid they turn into like the Unabomber or something. You know what I mean? They turn into they dig a hole, crawl into the hole. And so no one can project upon me, when in reality, you're going to say something?
Well, I can recognize that energy too, but I was thinking of popular fifth lines that did that. Adolf Hitler, wasn't he a 5-1?
Pretty sure he was. He had a bunker for everything.
Yes.
Yep.
That and the paranoia can take over. It's never has in me, but I do. It's not even like you said. It's not so much the paranoia. It can form into that. But I'm very cautious of what is a projection upon me, because and a thing that I notice that the fifth does, and maybe it's because I'm a 5-1. You said chameleon earlier, is that the 5 can lose themselves in the projection of the other, because they will start to conform to the other person's projection.
Right.
So be aware of that as well too, because then the more that you try to conform to the other person's projection, you're going to lose yourself in the process of it.
That's a great point, Jen.
Yes, that's where I've started to recognize what do I have energy for?
Right.
Do I have energy
Back
for
to that?
Huh?
Back to that simple question. What do I have energy for?
What do I have energy for?
Yeah. I mean, it's really just such an easy thing to look at, right? As part of the experiment. What do I have energy for?
What it's important to bring out, especially for 5s, because that was a toxic trait for me in my past relationships. If I'm going to be honest with anybody, I like to cook, but I don't like to cook that often. But I spent many relationships, long-term relationships, playing the perfect, housewife or whatever, come home and cook and clean and this and that, because my partner's projection of me was that I was Susie Homemaker. So I would literally exert myself into being Susie Homemaker, and it was never good enough for the other person.
Nor was it good enough for you.
No, it never was good enough for me.
Right. So you look at this, these characteristics of the fifth line. You start to realize you're here to universalize great messages. Think of the word universalize. I mean, that's a big deal. You're constant. If you have a fifth line in your profile, you are constantly attracting society, their projections, all of it. You're constantly attracting what our society's hopes and dreams. These are keynotes. This is not philosophy. It's literal. You're attracting their hopes and dreams. Little ones, big ones, medium ones, it doesn't matter. You're got an immediate advantage. It's so exalted if you're a fifth line, because you can literally just walk into any crowd, go to any job interview, do anything, come into any new relationship, and you can suddenly impact them. You can suddenly be a person of consequence just in the moment, because during that first moment of projection, you've got their attention. You can speak, and it's in that moment where the universalizing comes out. That person can be a complete stranger, and you've just universalized something onto them, and they will take it out into the world, or maybe you will as well. A couple other components of a fifth line are just the fact that you now get to witness. If you know that it's a genetic certainty, the other can't help but to project upon you in hopes that something universal will come from it. Think about what that says. You get to choose the projections you're going to accept. So if you're a fifth line and you're looking for a new job, line up 5 job interviews. Even if you don't think you'll like the interview, just 5 of them and witness, make them be in person if you can, and witness how the interviewer and the place and the people that walk by are projecting upon you. Be like, I like this one, don't like that one, totally didn't like that one. Oh, this one's medium. I'm going to boil it down to these 2. Now you're the one choosing.
Yes,
Now
that is a great suggestion.
We exalt that because fifth lines become these incredible saviors over time. They become these generals that can just marshal in to save the day. They're keynoted with the heretic because they bring something new. All these lines are bringing something new. It's just that with universalization as for the keynote, that you can universalize this thing out into the world, that you don't know how it's going to happen yet. Doesn't matter. You can. And because that's in there, you start to realize that, oh my God, I can make a big difference. I can make a big difference in my own life. I can choose what projections will I accept. And then this word heresy doesn't have to be a heresy anymore. The reason they're called a heretic is because they're so potent in the now, especially in the beginning of any relationship, that they can seem like a heretic. What's that person bringing into your life now? What is that person bringing? We don't know. And people can be a little bit skeptical of the heretic. They're always trying to figure out, what is that thing they're bringing? Is it a heresy? Are you about to change my religion upside down? You about to tell us why we have to stop burning witches? What? You're going to tell us it's time to build an ark? We don't know if we want to build an ark.
All of the above.
All of these are the function of our fifth line way. Again, 1/3 of the planet is acting out the attraction. So if 2.5 billion people are building an attraction projection field that's constantly being projected upon, the world is covered with it. It's everywhere. It's all around you. It's wherever you go. There is a giant interplanetary, planetary, connection field that is this projection of our hopes and dreams. And they're being heard because you're always near a fifth line somewhere. Just go to the supermarket, you'll see. So I find it to be an incredibly exalted position. Learn to realize what is practical. Fifth lines are the pros on what is practical. If it feels practical, you'll know because you'll have the energy for it. If you feel like accepting that projection, if you feel like being the person of that consequence, if you feel like rolling up your sleeves, if it meets with your morals and your guidelines inside yourself, your own internal compass, you're going to stick to it. And if that happens to be a heresy to someone else, they're not for you. The people that are for you are the people that say, this isn't a heresy, this is great, thanks. So that's a fifth line. It's an incredibly exalted place. If you ever go to the I Ching, the Chinese I Ching, you'll recognize that those guys exalted all the fifth lines. They just exalted it by virtue of that was their way. They figured they were all exalted. So anything else you want to say about the fifth line? Because it's just about the coolest thing ever. Everyone should have one in their network. You need those fifth lines. They attract society. They're great.
Yeah, just if you are a fifth line, just pay attention to the projection field. Start
Please.
learning how to communicate effectively the best way that you can. Know that if the other party's not receiving the information, that's quite all right. That just means the two of you are not on the same frequency. But yeah, and do research on any of the lines, guys, in your profiles to get to know them more
They're all
better.
doing the things that we're talking about here. They're genetically creating this in you, pouring out your aura, making it be part of your way through the life. Sort of surrender to that. You'll see it. The sixth line. This is the transition line. So the fourth and the fifth line are wicked transpersonal. One's networking and trying to be influential in its own local network. One is universalizing and attracting the broader society. So between the fourth and the fifth line, you've got everything you need to get it out into the world. And the sixth line is now transitioning into the next hexagram, into the next way. And the sixth line is busy looking out over all of it. It's here to be a role model. And if you have a sixth line in your profile and it's the first 30 years of your life, 28 and a half, really, you're living that out sort of as a third line. You go back and listen to what we were saying was the third line. Don't allow pessimism to stick around. You're here to be eternally optimistic. And you notice that you are optimistic. You can't help it. It keeps coming back. Let it. This is your way. This role model is really just finally getting so comfortable with the first 5 lines of the process, from investigating to finally universalizing. Technically, if we had no sixth line, we could end the hexagram process at the 5th line. As far as like any story or plot line would go, hey, we found it. We did a bunch of stuff. We universalized it. The story's over. But the story's not over. We have the sixth line, and it guarantees our transition. And what are we here transitioning into? We're here transitioning into what it is being a living example of what it is simply to be ourself. You're not going to really be able to know all the aspects of what is yourself until you have your BodyGraph pulled and deeply looked into and fully read and worked with. When I read for a person, it's not really reading. It's more like class. It starts out reading, but you need to be read and counseled. And you should really look into every reading that it should last about 5 times, approximately, where you're coming back to the well over and over again to hone down your understanding of your own mechanics so you can see what is this sixth line. What is it to be a living role model of who it is to be myself? That's what people are most impressed with. If you think about the things that have driven the last election cycles, it stands out a lot. We wanted that cult of personality, didn't we? Everyone wants that personality.
The sixth line personality?
Not necessarily that. They wanted the uniqueness. They wanted something different from the homogenized pot of Washington, D.C., for instance. They felt like it's...
I can't speak for the rest of the generation, the rest of the world.
Well, I'm using it as an example because everyone was here for it. It's just, what did we end up voting? The first time around, we ended up voting in somebody who just was this cult of personality. They appeared to be uniquely themselves. That's all I'm getting at. And the people who move us the most appear to uniquely be themselves. Jordan Peterson uniquely is himself.
Is he a 4-6?
I forgot. He's a 5-1.
That's right.
5-1. That's right. Yep.
I've noticed with, most of the... Is 4-6 the only profile that has the 6 in it?
Nope. There's 3 other profiles that will have that 6 line in it.
Okay. I know a lot of 4-6s, and what I have recognized with them is that they are very much role models. A lot of this, like, social media accounts that you'll see that can pull in a lot of people just naturally. Lo and behold, they were 4-6s, all viewed as the role model. You read their comments, and it's all people who are viewing them as role models.
Right. When people stand out as authentic, that's what people appreciate the most, that they really want authentic. The flip side of that is, please don't give me fake. Don't give me your fake self. Give me your authentic self. Everyone wants that. And it's the 6th line that's driving that process. That's because the 6th line demands transition. So we can't stop at the 5th line universalizing. Sorry, we got to pass the final test. Can you transition out of all of that into being a living example of being yourself? Because we're about to move into another hexagram, so you better get this right. Six lines, they go through a 3-part process in their life, and they give the rest of humanity a 3-part process. The first 28 or 9 years, and then you sort of have this interim section where you're up on the roof if you're a 6 line, and then by the time you're approaching 50, you sort of come down off the roof. The roof is just a spot where you're a little more aloof than you were the first 30 years. First 30 years, you're bumping into everything, living out a 3rd line profile. And then you transition out of that into sort of going up onto the roof of the house. Remember, we had a foundation, 1st floor, 2nd floor. Now we're up on the roof of the house. And that's the 6th line, looking out over everything. And as they approach 50, they start to really come down off the roof. If we're lucky, they start coming down off the roof in their 40s. But it's really designed to happen around their 50s. And they just... The 6th line is the reason we've given so much respect to our elders, because we know that time on this planet has given them wisdom that we don't have. Hi, I'm 22. I know my limitation. I'm not as smart as you. You know what I mean? You're 62 years old man. I'm 22. Please, old man, tell me, give me your wisdom. And we want that. Mm-hmm. No longer are they the old man. They're just the carrier of the wisdom. And the living embodiment of being this role model is literally just getting comfortable in your own skin as yourself. And people really appreciate that over time. They start to recognize, wow, that person's very powerful. They are just themselves. I can't make them be other than themselves. So other things that show up, the 6th line is very much the capable administrator. They're also the perpetual optimist. They're the perpetual optimist, and they don't always know it because they had the first 30 years of their life dealing with pessimism. So if you're a 6 line profile anywhere in your profile, ditch the pessimism. You literally learn that was just a chemistry telling you what might not be the best idea. That's all. That's all pessimism does. It just makes you be a little bit skeptical. Like, what shouldn't I do? I've done enough things. What shouldn't I do? So let it be there. Again, it's just a chemistry. And then as you go through this 3-part process, realize it can be confusing, this 3-part process, because you're one way and then suddenly you're another. And then suddenly you're another. And the 6 lines live this out profoundly. This living embodiment of being what you are as yourself is literally, it's not here to please anybody. It's just here to be yourself. Mm-hmm. So 5th line is still trying to please people because we're trying to universalize the message. 4th line is trying to please people some way, shape, or form. I'm trying to externalize. I got to please somebody so that they'll listen. 3rd line is trying this and that. They need the other somewhere along the line in order to try this and that, and trial and error. So they're going to, 6th line is aloof and away and apart from all of that. In a sense, the 6th line isn't even part of the hexagram, because they're guaranteed to transition out into the next hexagram. They're here to get that process right and show us all what it is to be the role model. The great example of the 5th and 6th, the last binary, this last binary that is moving out. We did the 1 and the 2, the 3 and the 4. Now we're at the end, the 5th and the 6th. And the 6th line is very much basically, the 5th line comes into town and says, hey, I'm the heretic. I'm bringing you this new universalized message. We need to do it. We need to build an ark. It's like a good example. It
was a heretic.
The town comes in. They're like, dude, what do we do? Do we burn this guy? Do we stone him? Do we kick him out? Do we make sure our daughters don't go anywhere near him? Do we build an ark? He said, dude, the guy said we need to build an ark. So the whole village, what do? They go to the fool on the hill. The 6th line. This is just an example, by the way. It's an archetype of a fable. We'll call it a parable. They go to the fool on the hill, who is that 6th line. They are the oracle. They are the oracles of Delphi. They are that 6th line. And if that 6th line says, it seems like rain, what they've done is they've just codified, they've solidified, and they've concretized. Yeah, the heresy is right. The 5th line person that showed up here, it looks like rain. Let's build that thing. It looks like rain. We got to build it. So the 5th line is always there verifying. They're the verifier of the first 1 through 5 process. So, and it's not like you can run down with your finger and point, let me verify this for you. No, you've got to be invited. The timing has to be right. You have to honor your strategy and authority, But this is what you're doing. And when there's 2.5 billion of you en masse, you're getting this job done. Verifying. You're the verifier. Was that the right thing to do? Am I being myself? You know, and then ultimately in bonding with the other, you'll know, because the right bonds will feel like soul bonds. They will feel like soul bonds. And the right love, romantic love in your life, will feel like a soulmate to you. They will feel like, God, this one's got me. They got my back. I love this person. I can rest my search now. And on the flip side, you can realize you're not here to keep the search going. You know what I mean? Just be yourself. Because that is a thing 6 lines fall prey to, is the sadness that the optimism is for naught. Got a 6 line in your profile. Don't be sad that the optimism is for naught. Just allow your process to be yourself. Get your chart read so you can know what that self is, and let your body start making the decisions. And it's a wicked exalted place because, dude, you guys get to see everything, and we need you seeing it. It's super exalted. It's something we need in this world. And it's fun. 6 lines are fun, man. Once they are themselves, we can do anything. So you're the fun person when you want to be. And these are the exalted versions of these lines of consciousness that are embedded within our genome, driving us through this life. It's great. Anything about the 6th line you want to ask, or?
No, my friends that I know that have 6 in them, I can totally recognize the optimism, and when the pessimism does come out, and the energy does definitely feel different in those circumstances now that you say that. So
You notice they get a little bit aloof.
Yes. And it is just being yourself. There's a couple of influencers that I like, that I follow. A lot of them are in the coaching industry, and that's where I have noticed, through my investigation here's me showing my one. I investigate to see if I can pick out what profile they are through the flavor of the energy. And one of the girls that I follow, her whole program is around being authentic and not being in somebody else's, especially if you're going into the coaching industry, you can lose yourself because it's all like, this is how you're supposed to do it. And you follow along with how everyone else is doing it, and you really lose the essence of yours. It's amazing to watch her energy. She is a 4-6 profile. She just came out about that, and I was like, okay, spot on. I knew that. But just to watch how she does impact people, and she's impacting people, and she's even said it herself, I'm just being me. I'm being authentic, and I'm showing up being me. And by her just doing that, she's impacting a lot of lives, where she's just gone through a transition, and she's realizing she wasn't impacting so many lives because she wasn't really truly being authentic.
Right. Well, if these profiles, if a third of humanity has that 6 line in it, and that's been happening for 242 years as we had this evolution, 1781, into these 9-centered, longer living, warmer life forms, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people that have put this need to be authentic in ourselves out into the world. So it's not like 6 lines own that. Oh, they're the only ones. No. That 6 line genetic energy in the soup of humanity has done what all the other genetic energies of these lines have done in the soup of humanity. 6 lines can be called, for 2nd lines can want to universalize. Universalizers can want to investigate. So they all have souped each other, ending in this transitional form that is us, that needs to be a living embodiment of authenticism. And what is it to be ourselves? So vote authentically, vote for yourself, be yourself. And they're very exalted. These 6 lines are very exalted, and they're great. So learn to love yourself
by getting your session done.
Absolutely.
So, links scrolling down below. You can find them in the description. For everybody who tuned in today, thank you. Make sure you subscribe, follow, and share the show. And we will see you on Wednesday.
Tuning out. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Yes, y'all have a beautiful and blessed day. Bye now.